When you think of Japan, what usually comes to mind? Bustling cities, maybe, bullet trains. But way out in the countryside, a really quiet but powerful revolution is underway. Japan is actually merging its ancient farming traditions with some seriously futuristic technology to solve one of its oldest challenges. So let's dive into how this smart agriculture is totally reshaping the fields. This quote from a farmer named Takeshi Tsuji just gets right to the heart of the whole issue. And let me tell you, it's not just some philosophical thought, it's the day-to-day reality for Japan's entire agricultural sector. It perfectly sets the stage for why this tech revolution isn't just a nice to have, it's an absolute necessity. So you've got this perfect storm, really. On one hand, the workforce is aging, which means there are literally fewer hands to do all the back-breaking labor. And on the other hand, the climate is changing so fast that the old experience, the wisdom passed down for generations, well, it just doesn't always work anymore. It's a combination that's pushing traditional farming methods right to the edge. So, how in the world is Japan supposed to deal with this crisis? Well, the answer isn't just about finding more people. It's about making the work smarter, way more efficient, and incredibly precise. And that, right there, is the smart agriculture revolution. Okay, so what exactly is smart agriculture? Well, according to Japan's own Ministry of Agriculture, it's basically a new way of farming that uses robotics and ICT, that's just information and communications technology, to hit two major goals: save a ton of labor and produce much higher quality food. It's really a shift from brawn to brains and bots. And look, this isn't just technology for technology's sake. It's a whole national strategy with super clear goals. They're trying to directly solve the labor shortage, make farming less physically brutal, and figure out how to pass on the incredible knowledge of veteran farmers. But really, at the end of the day, it's all about boosting productivity and making sure Japan can feed itself long into the future. So what does this high-tech farmer's toolkit actually look like? Come on, let's break down the key pieces of tech that are making all this happen, from way up in the sky all the way down to the soil itself. This whole smart farming revolution, it really starts with a change in perspective. I mean, literally, instead of just walking the fields, farmers are now getting a bird's eye view, and they're gathering incredible amounts of data from satellites and drones. And this is where it gets really cool. This is a real service in Japan called Tenbare. It takes super complex satellite data and turns it into these simple color-coded maps. A farmer can just pull this up on their tablet and see instantly which parts of their field are doing great and which spots need a little help. And you might think this sounds complicated, but the process is actually dead simple. A farmer just goes online and requests data for their fields. The service does its thing, analyzes the right satellite images, and then boom, the farmer gets an email to download their detailed report. It's basically farming intelligence on demand. And the data they get back is just unbelievably specific. For wheat, it can measure the protein content. For soybeans, it can tell you the perfect time to harvest. For rice, it can measure something called a SPAD value, which is basically like a health checkup for the plant, telling you its chlorophyll levels. This kind of detail makes farming incredibly precise. All right, so that's the view from the sky. Let's come back down to Earth, literally, and see how all this data gets put into action. Or maybe I should say, how the robots are doing it for us with autonomous tractors. The impact of these machines is just huge. One person can suddenly manage a much, much larger area, which is an absolute game changer for big farms. And because the robot is handling all the precise movements, even a total beginner can get expert-level results. It also cuts down on the exhaustion from doing slow, repetitive work. And get this, some of these systems can even be added onto a farmer's existing tractor. Okay, so you've got all this amazing hardware, satellites, drones, tractors, but how does it all talk to each other? Well, it needs a brain, right? A central nervous system. And that's where remote and automated systems, all connected through the cloud, come into play. And this right here illustrates the idea perfectly. This system lets a farmer check the water level and temperature in a rice paddy right from their phone. They can open and close the water gates remotely without ever setting foot in the field. Just think about the hours of walking and manual checks this saves every single day. It's incredible. Now, all this tech is impressive, for sure, but what does it actually look like when a real person puts it to use? Well, let's go back to Takeshi Tsuji, the farmer we heard from earlier. Turns out, he used to be an engineer, and he's putting these tools to work in some amazing ways. Okay, get this. By using drones to spray fertilizer and pesticides, Mr. Tsuji cut his working time for that one job by nearly 40%. 40%! That's not a small tweak. That is a massive leap in efficiency. And this quote from him, it just explains his whole philosophy. He sees farming just like engineering. It's all about making things better. And for an engineer, that means you're always using data to make things better. He's not just growing rice, he's engineering a better way to do it. But this next part, this is where you can really see the engineer in him come out. So after the harvest, his team has these debrief meetings, but instead of just relying on notes or memory, he records the meetings and feeds the audio into an AI for analysis. So what did the AI find? It listened to their whole conversation and basically spat out their 4 biggest headaches for the next season: water shortages, weeds, pests, and the quality of the seedlings. As Mr. Tsuji says, humans have a tendency to put off the annoying or troublesome stuff, but the AI just cuts right through all that, pinpoints the exact problems, and even starts suggesting solutions based on data. So as cool as Mr. Tsuji's story is, and it is really cool, it's so important to remember this isn't just about one innovative guy on one farm. This is all part of a much bigger national vision for making sure Japan has a sustainable food future. What we're really seeing here is a fundamental shift. We're moving away from the old model, which was all about individual farmers relying on their own experience, to a new data-driven approach. And the government is helping push this along with things like smart agriculture demonstration projects, and by creating detailed guidebooks to help more farmers get started. So if there's one thing you take away from all this, it should be this. Smart agriculture is so much more than just fancy robots and drones. It's a complete strategy from the top down, designed to solve some really tough challenges and make sure Japan can feed itself for generations to come. And all of this leaves us with a final, kind of wild question to think about. As technology starts to handle more and more of the physical work, is the very definition of a farmer starting to change? Is the farmer of the future going to spend less time walking the fields and more time analyzing data streams, basically managing a fleet of robots from a screen? It's a pretty profound shift to consider.